Does something seem just a little off about this video? How about now? Is that better? Today we're going to discuss white balance and how you can avoid making yourself look like a Smurf or an Oompa Loompa and get better colors in your videos. Let's make it simple. Greetings and salutations, my friends. My name is Travis, aka Dad, and welcome to Dad Does Tech. I'm just an ordinary dad who loves tech and camera stuff, and today we're talking about white balance. What is it, how does it work, and why you should give a flying flarp. And if you don't know what flarp is, count yourself abundantly blessed because my kids just started playing with it and it's a total mess. In short, white balance is a setting inside your camera that will allow your camera to accurately identify colors. When it comes to white light, not all white light is exactly the same. I bet if you took a stroll around your house right now and looked at all the different lights that you have lighting each room, you'd probably notice that some of your lights look a little more yellow, some look a little more white, and some look a little more orange than the others. Why is that? The differences in color that you're seeing in these lights is something that we call color temperature. And each light has its own color temperature based on whether it's a little bit cooler, meaning it's a little more white, a little more blue, or it's a little warmer and has a little more yellow or orange in it. The color temperature of any given light is represented by a number on what is called the Kelvin scale or color temperature scale. The Kelvin scale is simply a scientific measurement of the color in which a light is emitting, giving it a number value so you can precisely identify what a specific color is coming out of a light. The warmer or more orangey lights are represented by the lower numbers on the Kelvin scale, and the cooler or more white-blue lights are represented by the higher numbers on the Kelvin scale. This is why when you talk to someone who does photography or video and you hear them talking about a light, they may say this light is 5600 Kelvin and this light is 6000 Kelvin. They're just telling you exactly what color temperature each light is, whether it's more blue or more orange. You're probably thinking, what's the point? I can already see that these lights are different colors. One's a little bit more white, one's a little more yellow. Why do I need a number value to tell me what exact color temperature this is? Well, that's just it. Your eyes can see that a light is more white or more blue or more orange or more yellow, but your camera can't. To your camera, all white lights are created equal and look exactly the same. But we know differently because we can see the differences in their color. This is why we have to set the color temperature in the camera so that the camera knows which color of white that it actually is. And this is called white balance. At the beginning of the video, you saw a little bit of what can happen with incorrect white balance. With my current setup, I have a 5600 Kelvin light as my main key light in front of me that's lighting my face. And this is a light that falls relatively in the middle of the Kelvin scale, but it's a hair more on the blue-white side than it is on the warmer side. So what happens is if I tell my camera that this light isn't white and it isn't more of the bluish color, and I say, no, it's actually really warm, it's actually more of a tungsten-y orange or incandescent light bulb style, what happens is all of a sudden I turn into Smurf. And if you want to avoid looking Smurfy, you gotta get your white balance right. On the flip side, if I tell my camera that this light is 10,000 Kelvin, which is as cool as possible when it isn't, then what's gonna happen? I'm gonna look like an Oompa Loompa. And Oompa Loompa doompity dee, this shot just looks terrible to me. This is why dialing in your white balance is so important because it helps you get natural and good looking colors. You may have noticed that your camera has an AWB setting on it, which stands for auto white balance. So why not just use an auto white balance setting and skip the fuss? The auto white balance setting on your DSLR or mirrorless camera is simply going to allow your camera to take an educated guess on what color temperature the primary light source is that's coming across your face or in your scene. The problems start to appear when you have multiple light sources with different color temperatures. Your camera is going to be forced to try and figure out which is the primary light source and which one it should white balance to. It may get it right, it may get it wrong, or it may just try and white balance somewhere in a temperature in between to try and just make it okay. As a result, you're going to get a less accurate image with inaccurate colors, and then you're going to have to try and fix it in post. Some people will tell you that white balance isn't all that important and you should just throw your camera in auto white balance and any adjustments you need to make later, you can just fix it in post-production. And to some extent, that is true. If it is a minor color shift, a little bit cooler or a little warmer, you can usually make those adjustments without causing too much damage to your image and having any image loss. However, if you find that your image is a little bit too orange or a little bit too blue, and it's a little bit more than just a minimal correction, you're gonna find that your post-production has limitations. You're gonna spend a whole lot of time trying to correct for it and get it to look right, and you may be able to get some aspects of the image to look okay, but usually when it comes to things like skin tones, you're gonna result in some blown out highlights and skin tones that just look blotchy and awful. The exception to this, of course, is if you were shooting in a true RAW format, you should be able to make some drastic color changes without any image quality loss. But for the average person shooting on a mirrorless or DSLR, post-production color changes have limitations. This is why my philosophy is if you can get it right in camera, get it right in camera. With just a few clicks of the buttons and a few minutes, you can set up your white balance and have it ready before you hit record and save yourself potentially hours of work in post-production. If you're new to this, you might be thinking, how in the world am I supposed to know what color temperatures all my lights are, and how am I supposed to remember all of that? The good news is if you're shooting with some type of studio lighting, whether it's LEDs or umbrellas, the box or website will tell you exactly the Kelvin temperature of your lights, and you'll be able to dial that in on your camera. If you're not shooting with studio lights where you know the exact color temperature and you're shooting using light from, let's say, the window or lamps, the good news is there's generally only about 4 different color temperatures you need to remember to end up getting a pretty good result. If your video is taking place in a home indoors, the most common light source that you will likely see is incandescent light bulbs, which have a warmer rating around 3200 Kelvin. This means if you set your camera white balance to 3200 Kelvin, that will make all of the incandescent light bulbs and lamps in the home look a little bit more white instead of yellow. If you're shooting your videos for corporate work or for businesses, most workplaces typically use fluorescent lighting or lighting that's LED like fluorescent lighting, and those come in around 3800 Kelvin. So if you set your white balance to 3800 Kelvin, it'll look great. If you find yourself shooting a lot of your videos next to windows where you're using that natural light to light your scene, or when you're shooting outside on a sunny day, you'll want to set your white balance to 5500 Kelvin, which is a good temperature for sunlight. The last light temperature worth noting is for when you're shooting outside when the weather is overcast or cloudy. This typically makes the light significantly cooler, and you're going to find the best settings roughly around 6500 Kelvin. By the way, this color temperature reference chart will be available in the description down below if you'd like to download it or print it off for future reference. Generally, you'll find with those 4 white balance settings, you'll be able to shoot your video in a variety of situations without any issues. However, there are going to be times where these numbers aren't perfect, but they will make good starting places for you to make micro adjustments however you see fit when you need to make your scene a little bit cooler or a little warmer. If you're still thinking you can't remember those 4 lighting temperatures, or you're just not all that interested and you just want to make your videos look better, well, the good news is those 4 lighting temperatures are likely already presets on your camera. If you head over to your camera's white balance settings, lo and behold, we will find that there are multiple presets already set up, and most of them will match some of the color temperatures we just talked about. If you look at the tungsten setting, that will actually be very similar to the incandescent light bulbs that we talked about for indoor lighting. There's a fluorescent setting that will closely match to the one we talked about, as well as daylight and cloudy settings. So if memorization is not your strength or not something you really need to worry about right now, and you're just trying to get a better image, these presets will give you likely better and more consistent results when you're making your videos. If you find yourself using a preset and it's a little bit too warm or a little bit too cool, you can always go into your white balance settings and try and dial in the specific Kelvin temperature if you want to, or you can try and adjust the color temperature just a little bit in post-production. There's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to make these micro adjustments in post-production. That's what it's for, to try and make your image look better, but you shouldn't be trying to fix images that look bad. So do your best to try and make your image look as good as possible before you get to post-production. If you're someone who wants to get the best image with the most accurate colors straight out of your camera, you can take your skills a step further by doing a custom white balance, which will allow you to dial in your white balance settings specifically to the scene you're shooting and what's in your frame. If you are interested in how to set a custom white balance and really dial in those white balance settings, I am in the process of creating that video of how to set that custom white balance. So depending on when you're watching this, it may or may not be available yet. If it's not available, it'll be available really soon. If it is available, you'll find it right up here in the corner in the card, as well as in the description down below. Alright everyone, that is going to do it for this video. If you liked it, found it helpful, or mildly entertaining, please smash that like button, hit subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later. And then some are a little bit more red or orange-y. Orangey. That's more orange. Bluish and orangey are the scientific terms used to describe white balance.
Yeah.
What do you get when you guzzle down sweets? Bet you weren't expecting Willy Wonka references when you clicked on this video.